Hey everyone, and thanks for checking out this movie review. So today we'll be continuing with my current Friday the 13th horror franchise that I've been taking a look at for the month of August here. And today we are up to, and we'll review the ninth film in the franchise, which is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. So yeah, it's part of this two-film collection pack that I got here. Both this one and Jason X are just R-rated. They're not. I don't have the cut. Unrated versions. I know there is for Jason Goes to Hell. I'm not sure about Jason X, but today we'll look at Jason Goes to Hell. So I'll just kind of go through the setup and the premise of the film, and then I'll get into my thoughts and reviews, which will contain spoilers. So, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday is a 1993 American supernatural slasher film directed by Adam Marcus, written by Jay Hughley and Dean Laurie, and produced by Sean Cunningham, who came back for this one, thinking that he did the first one, he would do the last one. Of course, this was not the last one. Um, let's see. It is the ninth installment of the Friday the 13th franchise and stars John D. LeMay, Carrie Keegan, Stephen Williams, and Kane Hodder's Jason Voorhees. The third movie in a row that Kane Hodder's played Jason. Um, it's the first film in the series to be distributed by New Line Cinema, set after the events of Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. The film follows Jason's spirit as it possesses various people to continue his killings after his death. In order to resurrect himself, Jason must find and possess a member of his bloodline, but he can also be permanently killed by one of his surviving relatives using a magical dagger. So yeah, so basically the movie opens. It's a few years after his demise in Manhattan. The resurrected Jason Voorhees returns to Camp Crystal Lake, where he stalks a lone woman. The woman is actually an undercover FBI agent who lures Jason into an ambush where he is obliterated by armed FBI and SWAT agents. He's basically blown up, shot at and blown up. Jason's remains are sent to a morgue where his still beating heart entices the coroner to eat it, allowing the killer's soul to possess him. Jason, in the coroner's body, escapes the morgue, killing another coroner and two FBI guards in the process. At Crystal Lake, Jason finds three partying teens and kills them. When two police officers are called to investigate the murders, Jason kills one of them and possesses the other. Meanwhile, bounty hunter Creighton Duke discovers that only members of Jason's bloodline can truly kill him, and he will return to his original near invincible state if he possesses a family member. The only living relatives of Jason are his half sister Diana Kimball, her daughter Jessica, and Stephanie, the infant daughter of Jessica, and Stephen Freeman. So it's a pretty interesting premise. That's kind of the setup of the film as it starts out and how we got here and everything like that. So the cast is John D. LeMay as Stephen Freeman, Stephen Williams as Creighton Duke, Aaron Gray as Diana Kimball, Carrie Keegan as Jessica Kimball, Allison Smith as Vicky, Stephen Culp as Robert Campbell, Leslie Jordan as Shelby, Rusty Schwimmer as Joey B, Billy Green Bush as Sheriff Landesgard, and Kane Hodder, of course, is Jason Voorhees, and he's also an FBI agent at the beginning of the film, which was kind of interesting to see him without the mask. So this is a movie, very interesting movie, very interesting installment in the franchise. This movie gets a lot of hate by people, and I had never seen it before, so I was curious to see if it was as bad. I should say, as most people say, not everybody. It has its fans or people that give it the benefit of the doubt. But it was my first time watching it. So if you tuned into this movie to see me, rip this movie and shit all over it, you're going to be slightly disappointed here in the next few minutes. I actually found some enjoyment in it. Not a perfect movie, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I'll just go through my pros and cons as I normally do as part of my review. Starting with the pros, once again, we have Kane Hodder as Jason, who obviously his time's very limited in this movie as Jason. Only he basically bookends the movie. That we see Jason at the beginning of the film and at the end of the film. So I don't think it's his best portrayal of Jason, but that's not necessarily his fault. I still think Jason Takes Manhattan's his best portrayal so far that he's played the character, but he's still really solid and a good Jason in this movie. This movie, unlike some of the previous ones, I found anyway, that it has compelling characters that you actually come to care about. I feel like they're better written than the previous ones, and in some cases better acted. John D. LeMay would be one, Carrie Keegan, and Stephen Williams. Those are kind of the big three of this movie that I found. I thought their characters were pretty interesting, pretty well written, and pretty well acted. So that was definitely a plus. Creighton Duke is definitely my favorite character, although I have one beef with him that I'll get into with my cons. Not really with him, but the character, more of a plot convenience. But just his presence on screen. He was big, he was bulky, he was kind of scary in his own right. I really liked him as a character. Another big pro is this blood. This movie have this movie returns the blood and the gore that we've sorely been missing from at least the last two movies in this franchise. The kills are very violent, very creative, definitely gory, definitely bloody. The MPAA must have been on vacation, or thank God they were on hiatus or something when this movie was sent to the theater, so they didn't get too involved with it like they did the last two. But yeah, it's definitely it's an entertaining enough movie just to watch through the kills that include a lot of gore and blood. And speaking of that, great special effects and makeup in this movie that really adds to the enjoyment of the movie. Even though the story's a little convoluted and you're not kind of all over the place, you can get through this movie because of the makeup effects are great. Definitely the best so far in any Friday the 13th movie. And I also thought the special effects were really good in this movie with like the melting of one of the bodies that Jason possessed and then gone into another body, and that body that he was in before melts right in front of our eyes. Just very convincing, very good special effects. I thought the story was decent and interesting as the family angles go after six, seven, eight, nine movies into a franchise. When it's the first time you hear about any of that angle. Certainly, it was executed better here than in other franchises where they've tried to introduce family members down the line. I'm looking at you, Freddy's dad. Um, but I thought it was some of the story was decent and interesting. Um, I think this is a really well directed movie by Adam Marcus. A lot of people gave him crap about blowing up Jason, and they don't like this movie, but I don't. I think he knew. I think he directed the hell out of this movie as far as the story he was given, the script he was given. I really think he did a good job. I think there's pretty good tension with the atmosphere and the tone of this movie at certain parts, especially like when they're out in the woods again at Crystal Lake. It kind of returns what we've been missing the last few movies. I think there's better acting in the previous Friday movies. Now, I'm not going to say all the acting in this movie is great because it certainly isn't, but I think the three main leads that I talked about earlier certainly do a good job. Um, Obviously, you got to talk about the ending when his mask is laying on the ground there. Spoiler alert coming up here. So he basically gets dragged to hell at the end, literally, by all these demonic arms and hands that come out of the dirt and drag him to hell. So only his mask is left on the level of the sand, and the dog kind of pulls it up a little bit. And so as they're cutting towards it, or the camera's looking at it, all of a sudden we see Freddy Krueger's arm come out with his claw and grab the mask and pull it down to hell. I thought that was awesome. One of the best moments of this franchise, and it kind of sets up what would be coming about a decade later, as it turns out. Of course, I'm sure they didn't know that at the time. They thought it would come sooner. But that's just a great sort of surreal scene and a great way to end this movie because clearly at this point, Freddy was in hell after Freddy's dead. And then now Jason's been dragged to hell. So Freddy went after him. And it kind of, if you think about it, it kind of fits into how Freddy versus Jason starts out. I won't get too deep into that, but great ending after we've had a couple of really clunker endings in the last couple Friday movies. Um, Pretty good final girl in Jessica, I thought, who's older. She's not your typical girl, I guess. She's more of a young woman, but I thought she was a good character, pretty well acted by Carrie Keegan. She had a good arc, I thought, because she begins just being sort of a normal mom and not really sure what's going on, which is more believable than somebody just jumping right into, oh, Jason Voorhees is killing people after he's dead. It took her a while to kind of get on board, and I don't know. I just thought it was a very believable performance and a believable final girl. I thought she did a good job, and ultimately, obviously, stuck the dagger in Jason at the end, literally. Um, and as I've done with previous movies and previous franchises, you got to give them credit for doing something different, and this is really different. probably the most different in the whole franchise. Certainly, it's kind of weird with the possession aspect of it, as opposed to just sort of your teen slasher like we've seen before. But I was entertained by it. I have to be honest. I wasn't bored necessarily for most of the movie. I thought it was a good suspenseful final act that kept me interested on how it was going to play out. And yeah, it's weird. It's a weird movie. It's different, but I give them credit as I normally do for trying something different. I really do. So those are my pros. Getting into the cons. The big, I think I know the reason why diehard Friday the 13th fans really despise this movie, or a lot of them anyway. It's because it doesn't really feel like a Friday the 13th movie or a Jason movie that we've come to know and love for the most part at this point. The first eight movies were all slasher movies, with the previous seven being Jason Voorhees, this big stalker character coming after and killing people. This is kind of a completely different movie that uses Jason's soul as essence to possess people. It becomes kind of more of a possession movie, a little bit like, I don't know how Friday or Friday, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, where he possesses Jesse, although he only possesses one person to do his bidding. This is a little different because it's what's left of Jason with his heart, and where he transfers his soul and himself into these other people. So some similarities there, but so I think that's the reason why a lot of people have a problem with this movie. It's actually a really well-made movie if you're honest about it. Certainly more well-made than the last few, in my opinion, in terms of directing, acting, cinematography, things like that. But I understand it doesn't have Jason stalking teenagers throughout the course of the movie, so I think that's why a lot of people don't like it. Jason isn't in the movie much. Obviously, that's a big con for a lot of people. I will say Jason's look and his mask look really weird in this movie. I know they kind of did in the last one, where Jason Takes Manhattan. It's kind of a waterlogged look. In this movie, I don't know, when this mask is like faded. You don't hardly even see the red mark on the hockey mask. It's more like silver in this movie, and then he's also got like hair coming out of the back of his lumpy head, which is different too. I don't know. It's just really weird, and it kind of, when he was on screen, it sort of took me out of the movie a little bit there. The mystical dagger that they use is kind of silly. I won't say it's as weird as the dream demons that they use in Freddy's Dead. It isn't that stupid, but it's kind of wah wah, a little bit. I didn't really buy that altogether. Um, One thing that annoyed me in the third act was that they kept dropping this damn dagger, which I know is part of any slasher movie. But oh, it's just getting annoying. Where the final girl, or Stephen Freeman, played by John LeMay, they just kept dropping it, and you gotta build up that suspense a little more. Who are they going to get the dagger? It's just this crap like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just watched too many of these in a row, but it's just really annoying. Um, Once again, you have major continuity issues with this movie. Now, it isn't all this movie's fault, but my first question is, how did Jason get back into Jason adult form? And how did he get back from New York? The last we saw him, he was a little kid curled up in a sewer in New York City. Now, I know that was a few years ago, so I don't know if a power line or something dropped down into the sewer and I mean, he's been resurrected before by lightning and stuff, and electrocution. So it's possible, I suppose, something like that happened and resurrected him. But what if you just walk back to Crystal Lake? Did he take a boat back and kill all the people? It just leaves the. But again, that's more the fault of Jason Takes Manhattan, I feel like. So I'm only going to give it 50% blame on this movie at most. Um, why did this is the problem I have with other movies too, Freddy's Dead being the most notorious, but why is it that we never hear about the fact that they have siblings or family members or bloodlines until like one of the last installments, or supposedly one of the last installments of the franchise? It's just kind of always silly, because we were believed to be he was an only child in the first few movies with Mrs. Voorhees and everything, and all of a sudden, oh no, he has a half sister. And yeah, and then you do the whole, the only way you can die is for a family member to kill him, which I guess is kind of interesting. They tried that with Freddy's Dead, although it was much more imaginative and pulled off better in this movie. But that speaks more to how bad Freddy's Dead is. But it's just kind of one of those things. There are some slow moments in the middle of this movie that kind of bogs down the movie a little bit. A couple of scenes that I thought they could have cut a little out. as I said, I know it's about 2 minutes shorter, the rated R theatrical release version. That's the version I have. I know there's an uncut version that's not a couple minutes longer, so I'm not sure. Somebody that's seen that can comment down below the big differences. There can't be too many big differences with just a 2 minute difference, but yeah, just a few moments. It certainly wasn't throughout the whole movie. This movie's missing some of the schlocky fun of the previous films, which I think a lot of fans also have come to sort of know with these Friday movies. I mean, this movie does have its TNA, it does have its sex and its swears and violence and kills with the gore, as I mentioned at Return, but it's more of a serious '90s tone as opposed to that '80s campy schlocky fun that I know a lot of people come to for these type of movies. It's more of a thinking movie where there's more plot and element, and you have to think about it more and it's less of like a popcorn slasher movie where it's just a mindless movie that you can grab on a Friday night and throw it in with a bowl of popcorn and a couple of beers. And I think that's again goes to why a lot of people don't like it. My biggest problem, I mentioned Creighton Duke is my favorite character in this movie earlier, but my one problem with him is how does he come to know so much? You know, I mean, again, we get into plot conveniences and contrivances here that this character just sort of comes out of nowhere, and apparently he kind of knows everything about Jason. I know he's a bounty hunter, but it's like, what did he learn this in an encyclopedia or what? So I don't know. Those are my pros and cons and my thoughts about the movies, guys. It's not a perfect movie by any means, and I can understand why some people, especially more diehard Friday the 13th series fans, don't like it because it's not. It is very different. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I enjoyed it enough. I really did. I thought that the return of the gore and the blood, um, just more likable and more relatable characters, and I thought it was sort of an interesting idea that it was supposed to be the last movie that Jason was going to be dragged to hell, and it was he either has eternity or he's dragged to hell, and it's just that fine line. I thought they did a pretty decent job within the third act. So much to some people's chagrin, I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I'm not going to be overly generous and say it's one of the best of the franchise. It certainly isn't, but it's not nearly as bad as, in my opinion, the previous film was, or what other films that are coming up might be. I will have to wait and see, but I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's kind of a middle of the road movie, but for what it is, I thought it was interesting and really well made and well executed. So those are my thoughts on Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Go ahead and give me your thoughts down below, guys, in the comments. Please like this video, hit the little subscribe or notification bell to see when my new videos drop, and please subscribe to my channel to see future movie reviews for Friday the 13th and standalones ones as well. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great day. Bye.